how can I measure my wow, wow, wow. I'm alive. Um, um, mm, do some sound check because you're oh my gosh, why watch it now? Why? Alright, so sound check's chilling. Basically, uh, I crack myself up. Alright, so I'm gonna just, I don't even know what to talk about. Um, Alright, um, basically, I want to discuss, at least I'm gonna start off, um, what's it called? Um, I want to discuss my Snapchat scenario. So last week, not even last week, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Um, last week, I, I, I said I wasn't gonna be back, but I am. Really, my mental of Snapchat is I really only need to talk to a group of people or just someone that I don't talk to often and not necessarily don't want to talk to, but just don't talk to. And I don't know. I really tried. Just no Snapchat. I didn't find it. My only issue was sometimes I need to. I want to say I want to talk to people. I want to communicate with a certain group of people or just like a group chat. They might want to get anything. I've considered making a different. I considered making an app to some degree, but it's always every time I think of apps, when apps start up, I always think of like Rick and Morty, sort of jokingly, but it's always it's always a concern that I would eventually become a sellout, that I would find like ads in it and stuff like that, and that's not the type of app I want. Obviously, I understand getting that check, but personally, that's not what I would. Excuse me. That's not what I make the app for. Um, I don't. I live in irony. I don't use social media. I don't like social media, but yet I use social media to explain why I don't like social media. Um, some would say I live the perfect life, but internally I feel the completely opposite way. In my own head, I feel like it's I don't think that perfect. Um, just two examples of just my life is I thought of sort of play on words. Um, I was thinking about situational irony because my irony just shits on me, but in a good way, like shit in a way. Like shit is nasty and it smells bad, but it also helps shit grow. And well, not it doesn't help shit grow, but it helps stuff grow. You know what I mean? But I feel like I try to. Honestly, I feel like I'm a good guy. I feel like I try to be good for others. Maybe it's subconsciously, maybe it's not, maybe it's just consciously. But I considered that maybe, excuse me, I was young. Um, I considered the fact that, not necessarily a fact, it's more of my opinion that I don't see as certainty. Um, I'm, I'm not knowing that bad things in life or bad events in life are always the most memorable, are always the most remembered, are always the most, they always hold the most lesson. And I sort of see myself as, I sort of see myself as like a devil's advocate in a way, because with all the black and the white that I think about and that I see, I feel like I can almost challenge people's perspectives. I can always challenge their beliefs, and I can either make or break someone per se. Um, you can grow from it, or you can break from it, and that pressure, uh, that devil's advocate vibe, or just almost like I'm providing pressure, and someone else going to see it as a pressure. And I feel like I may have talked about this a little bit in my last live stream. I don't remember, but I think it was Mean Girls. The movie with excuse me, I was young, but the 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 main character, I think, talks shit about her math teacher and calls her a pusher, and I think she jokingly, or I don't even remember, but I think they somehow took her as a drug pusher, and there's like cops in the movie, and that's just how I know the scene. But in terms of like the topic, I see myself as like almost like a motivator in some way. Not necessarily a motivator because it's almost like too positive of a connotation. Because I can definitely be overbearing, or, or just I don't know, maybe too extreme sometimes. And I don't like that about myself because I don't want to do it too extreme. But sometimes my emotions get the best of me. And recently, I've been contemplating a lot of emotion slash logic. Well, let me rephrase that. Recently, I've been like in my head a lot about emotional and logical thinking, in terms of how I emotionally think. Excuse me, again. And in terms of how I logically think. Um, and I try, I try, I try not to use emotion, I think, because it brings in my perspective, and sometimes my perspective also gets out of hand, or not necessarily my perspective, the the thought of my perspective gets out of hand, or I don't know a good way to explain that, but I try and think logically, facts and reason, and a fair, open mindset, and that's how I see logic. And then I see like information as logic, but information can be emotional or logical. And um, um, I was on to something and I sort of forgot. Oh, okay, I think I remember. Um, well, I keep yawning when I think of emotional logic. Or, oh my gosh, I think of emotionally processing ideas. I, I almost like shun the idea of using emotion, but that's sort of what makes us human in a way. And that emotion also gives you a perspective because you can tie in other experiences from the past and maybe even some parts of the present and determine determine thoughts and determine perspectives about the future and the present and the future. And that's sort of, I guess, what consciousness is in a way, is is taking being in the present. Well, okay, we're in the present, but sometimes you're not always. Sometimes you don't always. Sometimes we don't always think of ourselves in the present. Sometimes we think of ourselves in the past or in the future, but it's hard to. Sometimes it's hard to put ourselves in the present. Personally, it's pretty hard to put myself in the present. And I feel like that's also like being content in a way. Because when you're content, you you don't necessarily stop or necessarily like slow down, but in a way you do slow down and you appreciate the things around you and you appreciate when you're content, and that comes with appreciation. Um, and consciousness is taking the past and determining and basically using the past to mold and shape the future while being in the present. So it's a 3 in 1. And speaking of numbers, I'm still constantly like every time I see numbers, if it's the time, it's my battery percentage, they're always just running through my head. And I don't think I don't think they're good thoughts necessarily. And what I mean by that is numbers don't lie, and I've heard that quote before. But the people that write numbers do lie. The people that make the numbers do lie. And what I mean by the numbers don't lie, but the ones that write it do, is I feel like 0 through 9 has symbolic meaning in some way, but at the same time, that may that symbolic that symbolism between a number and its meaning could be could be what's the word I'm looking for? Could be the perspective of the perceiver. Like for me, or for an example, like the number two could mean one thing for me, or it could have one connotation and one perspective in my mind. But it could be slightly different, extremely different, or even the complete opposite in someone else's mind. And I don't necessarily think me thinking of numbers is a bad thing, because I feel like maybe it's some type of like, I don't know, maybe some type of symbolism that's like beyond just a number. But I don't look at numbers as like tarot cards or astrology or religion. It's more of like, it's just symbolism and how I think of them. Um, I don't I don't really know talk about sort of on a rant about numbers and stuff like that. One second, please. Um, Texting my friend about something. I'm sorry for a second of the silence. So, I think I dropped out after this semester, and I've been thinking a lot of I've been thinking a lot about what I'm gonna do and what my path will be, and and basically I've just been digging deep, and I need to dig deeper, but just so far I've just been digging deep. Um, I I was an information systems major at Georgia Southern, and I technically still am, but I guess not for long. And I I really I really wanted to be a college child since the beginning of me going to college. I went to college right out of high school. I even went to summer school because my grades were pretty bad. I just said fuck high school, fuck this shit, and I was just trying to skate by with the bare minimum, and I definitely did. And I feel like that affected me in the future in more than one way. And in terms of in terms of more than one way, I mean like mentally, it put me in a different spot than where I could have been. Physically, it put me in a different spot from where I could have been in terms of what college I went to, or just my possibilities after high school. Um, but I tried, and I continued changing the major that I was considering changing to would be psychology, and or maybe interior design, but I was really unsure of that, and it just wasn't really. I don't want to go to a university excuse me, I don't really want to go to university and learn about interior design, especially Statesville, because I don't really see. I don't want to. I don't want to assume anything. I don't want to assume, but I don't really see Georgia Southern as a great interior design school or interior design targeted major, if that makes sense. I don't see it as a sought after major at that school. Yeah, and and I don't think it would be worth my time or money to invest in that. So recently, I've been contemplating. I feel like I talked about this before. I feel like I talked about this last option, but I don't know. So I'll just keep going, just briefly. But I consider trade school, carpenter route maybe, electrician, maybe even a plumber. But if I was to go to trade school, I think carpentry would be my go-to. Um, I I feel like carpentry would be my go-to, or not necessarily just that, but trade school in general, because I see those tasks, I see those skills that you learn as hands-on and not necessarily simplistic in thought, but it's more of like creative problem solving, and hands-on creative problem solving is exactly where I feel like I thrive. Um, that sort of goes hand in hand with architecture and interior design, because those are also some of my interests right now. And um, I really I really haven't looked into trade school, like any programs or any schools, and I really need to. And I feel like I've just been slacking a little bit because it's Thanksgiving break, and not really anymore because it's Sunday night. But I have been considering those severely, and I don't know. That's just where my head's at. Um, I have been texting people a lot more, not on Snapchat, but through phone numbers, and it's nice. It's really it, I would say it's so I like simple communication in a way, because when I'm on Snapchat, I just be thinking too much. I just pick up exterior signs and just weird vibes way too often. And I don't know how to explain it, but when I'm just on a text message with someone, I just read their text and I can still misinterpret what they're saying, but it's so much easier on my head because I just think way too much when I get into like something. Excuse me, when I care about something or even have interest in it. I wouldn't say care because I don't I don't know what I care about. Honestly, I just think a lot about stuff, and um, it's like congestion in my head. And then when I text people, I don't feel like that. I don't feel that type of congestion. I don't feel that type of. I just don't feel exterior pressures like I do on Snapchat. I don't know how to explain it other than in my mindset. Um, and speaking of Snapchat, I made a new one, or I made not a new one. I mean, yeah, it's new, but I made another Snapchat. Um, I haven't snapped anyone. I haven't added anyone. My friend Adam, excuse me, he was texting in a group chat, and we were discussing Snapchat and me coming back to Snapchat, and I honestly, you brought up the point of using social media to talk about why I don't like social media. And I feel like I brought that up earlier, and I didn't even give him credit. But I'm trying to give credit where it's due. And he was. I honestly like. I wouldn't say he gave me the idea because I thought of my other friend who makes Instagram accounts and tries to expose the government. Not necessarily the government, but just tries to expose a little bit of the left and a little bit of the right about what they're like trying to hide. And Instagram takes his account down pretty often without reason. And um, that when I made that account, I remembered him. Like I thought of him like 2 times, or it doesn't matter how many times, but I thought of him. And then when Adam brought it up to me, I thought it was really cool that he was thinking about that because it was on my mind previously, but I didn't seriously consider it like that. But I've considered that as the route of that snapshot. I might make it as almost like a private story and just have like really close people on it and just have like a basically just a Snapchat, I guess, as a private story. That's another option I've had, but like it just seems like a waste of a Snapchat account in a way. Um, if I wanted to do an social media account, but honestly, I just thought about it. Like as I said that, I think I might sort of want to like tinker with like design, what's it called? Um, what am I trying to say? Like basically just design clothing because I discussed interior design and architecture, and that's buildings and environmental project not environmental projects, environment projects and environment landscaping. Um, but I didn't really even consider quote unquote human architecture, human design, like clothes basically. And I feel like I I could create like obviously I would need a brand name and then I would need products, quality products, and then I would just have to think of designs or just ways to market that product. In terms of like market and demand, or not, excuse me, supply and demand, I would definitely have to maybe maybe invest into like a not necessarily like a marketing team or something like that, but almost like a manager or almost like an overseer, just like an assistant like manager or something. I don't know how to I don't know what I'm trying to describe it as, but someone as like my go-to decision maker or my go-to I don't know. I don't know. But that's someone because I feel like I could do it on my own. Like okay, I feel like I couldn't do it on my own. I could definitely do some stuff on my own, but to create a solid idea, solid brand, and solid products, I would need other people's help. And when I just said that, it reminded me of a concept I had. I originally thought of it because in one of Juice WRLD's songs, he said I can do that on my own. And I really believe that I could definitely do that on my own. And I'm not saying that it's just only I could do that on my own or he could. I'm just saying that's what I accumulated from his thoughts or from his lyrics and then excuse me and then into my own thoughts. And Um, on the opposite of doing that on my own, I could do good with a group. And for example, if I had a group, I could definitely do better making like a brand. And um, sometimes I feel like art is probably the only route I could take. And not just art, but design and angles and perspective. Because symbolically, perspective is just angles. Um, that is like it sort of corresponds in a way because I feel like I'm good at seeing perspectives, and I feel like I'm good at seeing my own perspective. And I'm not saying I know my own perspective, but I feel like I'm good at getting perspectives and seeing perspectives. And with that, I could I could take that into a physical aspect and design and angle and all that type of stuff. So that's still in the back of my head as just a possibility. Uh, the other side stream is really just weird for me because I really, I really don't know. I feel like I need to get someone on here that I could talk to, or I could I could discuss with because live streaming alone is basically just like it's almost just like me wanting to talk to myself or wanting me to hear my own voice or something along the lines of that. And I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be interesting and attention grabbing, but not clickbaity. And I want it to be like I want people to grow from what I say and what I do, not necessarily as much as what I say. Sometimes I'd be saying whack shit, and I don't necessarily want people to do everything I say, but I'd rather people do what I do because you move different between talking and walking. Walk it like I talk it, walk it like I talk it, that type of vibe. Like do as like. I don't I don't like the saying "do as I say, not as I do." I don't even know if that is the same, but that sounds like it's the same because I don't want people to do everything I say because I'd be saying stuff for a reaction sometimes, like just saying stupid stuff. Um, honestly, I my sister sent me a picture of a Thanksgiving from a while ago. I don't remember. I definitely look a lot younger in the picture, but it was just really hits home when I see my past. I don't necessarily remember a lot of my past. I would say I don't remember it consciously, but I feel like the memories are always there. They just have to be reignited. And I get that looking at my looking at my old toys, looking at my just old pictures, just all that type of stuff, just giving me tons of nostalgia. And in the picture, I saw it was me, my sister, my brother, my dad, and his parents, and his dad just had the biggest smile on his face. He isn't even alive anymore. But when I see his face, I just feel his energy. I just feel his good vibes and just how happy and I wouldn't say bubbly, but he has such a great energy to him. He was so kind hearted, he was funny, and it really true to my heart made me miss him a lot. Um, I never really I never really saw how my parents really reacted to his death. Because I feel like, especially my dad, but I feel like both of them had great vibes from him, great energy, like just great stories, great experiences with him, and a great life with him. And I just, I, I was too young to really get to know him like that. And I feel like I not necessarily took advantage of it, but I almost did. Like maybe it was everything happens for a reason. But I wish I maybe had the subconscious thought to invest more time into my grandparents and just older people. Because I feel like older people are sometimes the most misunderstood or the loneliest or just the most outcasted. And it's partially to I feel of it as almost like an old car running on old fuel and the the battery is still new but just the car doesn't work as well. And sometimes I feel like maybe that's why there's grumpy a lot of grumpy old people is maybe they're misunderstood. Maybe they're not misunderstood. Maybe they just don't like the new and they're selfish in their mindset. Or maybe it's obviously a mix of something, or not obviously, maybe there's a mix, which is obviously more 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 likely to happen than the black or white that I'm talking about. I don't know. Christmas